Star Trek, Primitive Passenger Season 2, Episode 7, The Tulips. Nolan stood at the viewport of the Havoc's bridge, his reflection ghostly against the backdrop of darkness. The vastness of space seemed to mirror the weight of responsibility he carried. A soft chime broke the silence, heralding an incoming transmission. Nolan, Alara's voice carried a note of concern. We're receiving an urgent message from the Tabrid main colony. He turned, brow furrowing. Put it through. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the haggard face of Kelnar, the high-ranking Tabrid official Nolan had once rescued from the Breen. He and the Tabrid had worked for Nolan for a decade, before their very public falling out. The being's usually immaculate appearance was marred by soot and what appeared to be dried blood. Mercer, Kelnar's voice crackled with static and exhaustion. The Xalaxians, they've struck. Nolan's stomach tightened. How bad? Kelnar's eyes closed briefly. A gesture of profound weariness. Bad. Our little city lies in ruins. Thousands dead. Those of us who survive, well, there's nothing left here now for us. Damn, Nolan muttered, mind pacing through potential responses, aid he could offer. What do you need? A bitter laugh escaped Kelnar. Need? We need to turn back time, Mercer. Barring that, he paused, composing himself. The Colony Council has made a decision. We're leaving. Nolan blinked, surprised. Leaving? To where? Our ancestral homeland, in the Beta Quadrant. It's a long journey, but our ships are ready. It's time we faced facts. This sector has become too volatile. The implications of this exodus hit Nolan like a physical blow. The Tabrid colonists were a cornerstone of stability in the region, having been here for nearly 6 generations. Their departure would upset the delicate balance of power he'd carefully navigated for decades. Kelnar, are you sure? The decision is made, Mercer. Kelnar cut him off, his tone final. I'm transmitting coordinates where you can rendezvous with our fleet if you wish to. Say goodbye. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Nolan staring at a blank screen. He turned back to the viewport, mind whirling with the implications of this new development. As the Havoc prepared to jump, Nolan couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a seismic shift in the Quadrant's political landscape. The game was changing, and he'd need all his wits to stay ahead of whatever came next. Nolan stretched his mouth open to relieve the tension in his masseter muscles as he opened a channel to the Xalaxian High Command. The view screen flickered, revealing a portly man with his fingers laced together, leaning forward with a jovial look on his face. He wore a puffy purple jacket that strained slightly against his girth, and atop his head sat what, in Nolan's eyes, was an utterly ridiculous-looking tiny hat. Nolan Mercer, the man greeted, his voice dripping with amusement. Come to offer congratulations on our success. Nolan's eyes narrowed. Success? You call the slaughter of 4,000 colonists a success? The man chuckled, the sound low and self-satisfied. The Tabrid were wasteful. They squandered their wealth, their technology. We simply redistributed it more effectively. Effectively? Nolan's words carried barely contained disdain. You've driven them from their homes, forced them to flee the Quadrant. The man's pudgy fingers drummed quickly on the table before him. His eyes sparkled with smugness. And soon Nolan Mercer. You'll wish you had that option, too. A chill ran down Nolan's spine as the implication instantly set in. He kept his expression neutral. Is that supposed to be a threat? Raising one eyebrow. Oh, it's much more than that, the man said, leaning forward slightly, causing his absurd hat to tilt. It's a promise. Once we finish mopping up the last of the Tabrid outposts, we'll be coming for you. Nolan Mercer. Nolan assessed the situation, calculating distances, resources, and potential weak points. You're overextending yourself, Nolan replied coolly. You can't possibly. Can't we? The man interrupted, grinning broadly, his hat bobbing as he did so. You're spread too thin, Nolan Mercer. Mining operations over here, trade outposts over there. You can't protect them all at once. The threat hung heavy in the air, and despite the absurdity of the man's appearance, the danger was very real. Nolan felt Ilara's presence nearby, a quiet but steady reassurance. "Think carefully about your next move," Nolan said, his voice low and controlled. "You might find I'm not as easy a target as you think." The man's grin widened, almost too wide for his face. "We shall see, Nolan Mercer. We shall see." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Nolan staring at his reflection in the now dark view screen. His expression hardened. He looked up. "Alert all outposts," he ordered, his voice tight with urgency. "Increase security protocols, and prep the blink drive for at least 4 consecutive jumps. Go to Outpost Alpha if we need to resupply first." What are we resupplying for exactly?" "Ilara already jumping to Alpha for refined tritanium. I'm guessing it's not a picnic." Nolan Mercer sat in the command chair of the Havoc, eyes fixed on the view screen as enemy ships loomed ahead. The comm crackled to life. "You must surrender your vessel at once. Nolan Mercer, by order of the Xalaxian Imperium. There is no escape from our security grid. Your ship is locked inside with over 40 of our warships. We will destroy you if you fail to comply." On the view screen, a portly man stood with his fingers laced, wearing a puffy purple jacket and a very silly hat. More Xalaxian command warships joined behind the great dreadship. While still imposing, 40-1 might seem like an easy win. Nolan's eyes narrowed, and he leaned into the comm. "I'm sorry. Did I hear you right? 40 of your ships are locked inside with me. You don't actually think any of them will survive, do you? Surrender your vessel at once." He waved both of his hands, as if him simply saying the words somehow made it so. The Xalaxian ships broke formation, launching attack runs on the Havoc. "Ilara, target the least populated part of the planet. Hit them with a 3-second Metreon burst." "Nolan, that will. Now." Nolan's rage at having his order delayed was liquid fire. The massive beam erupted from the Havoc, tearing through several Xalaxian ships and striking the planet below. Clouds rapidly formed around the point of contact, the devastation visible from space. Nolan pressed buttons on the panel before him, and precise phaser fire began targeting the remaining attack ships. "What have you done?" "Cease fire immediately." "Our ancestral lands." The funny man fluttered. "You gave me no choice. This is your last warning. Release my ship, or the next target will be your capital city." "You wouldn't dare. Watch me," Nolan growled, leaning into the viewer, his eyes alight. The man in purple looked to one side, and the screen went blank. "Nolan, their fleet is retreating. The security grid is powering down." Nolan again worked his floating console and destroyed a half-dozen of the retreating ships, large remnants burning through the planet's atmosphere. Nolan leaned back, his voice calm but edged with steel. Reopen a channel to the surface." The image of the portly alien appeared on the view screen, visibly shaken. We are disengaging the grid. You and your ship are free to leave, Nolan Mercer. Outstanding choice. I don't expect our paths will cross again," Nolan told him, rather than speculating. "See to it." The channel closed, and Nolan exhaled deeply. He turned to Ilara, a rare smile touching his lips. He leaned his head to one side, then to the other with a satisfying crack. Nolan surveyed the display, ensuring the situation was under control. "Ilara, can we safely deactivate the defense satellites?" "Yes, Nolan. The satellites can be deactivated remotely without risk." "Good. Begin the deactivation process and prepare to transport them aboard." Ilara's voice remained calm and efficient. "Satellites deactivated. Ready for transport. We're going to leave them defenseless?" Nolan nodded, already considering the possibilities for adapting the technology. "They built this network. They can build more. Transport all the satellites inside the Havoc. We'll adapt their technology later." A lot of opportunities for a product like this. One by one, the satellites materialized in the cargo bays of the Havoc. As the last of the Xalaxian technology was secured, Nolan stood and stretched, feeling a sense of accomplishment. Let's get out of here. As the Havoc blinked out of the system, the smoldering planet and debris from ships was all that remained. The aftermath of the conflict left a stark reminder of Nolan Mercer's resolve and the lengths he would go to protect his ship and his enterprise. News travels fast on the fringes. Allies and adversaries alike would soon learn how Mercer, with just one ship, had not only embarrassed the Xalaxian Imperium, but had rewritten the rules of engagement in this sector of space. Nolan knew that he left them with just enough to survive, assuming they were smart enough to bow to the Cardassians when they came calling. The comm system chimed, interrupting Nolan's post-battle analysis. Ilara's voice filled the bridge. Nolan, incoming transmission from Cardassia Prime. It's Gul Revok. Nolan's eyebrows raised slightly, put him through. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the scaled visage of Gul Revok. His thin lips curved into what passed for a Cardassian smile. Ah, Mercer. Revok's voice oozed with false warmth. I must say, you've outdone yourself this time. Nolan leaned back in his chair, affecting a casual pose. Revok, to what do I owe the pleasure? The Cardassian's eyes glittered with barely concealed ambition. Oh, I simply wanted to extend my gratitude for your handling of the Xalaxian situation. On our behalf, of course. Your behalf? Nolan's tone was carefully neutral. I wasn't aware I was working for Cardassia these days. Where should I send the bill? Revok waved a hand dismissively. Home now, Mercer. We both know that stability in this sector benefits us all. And with the Tabrid fleeing for their very lives, and your impressive display against the Xalaxians, well... He paused, his smile widening. It seems you and I are the only players left on the board, doesn't it? Nolan's eyes narrowed imperceptibly. The game's never that simple, Revok. You know that by now. The Federation is pouring root beer over this entire anthill. Not necessarily good for either of us. Perhaps not, Revok conceded with a slight nod. But for the moment it does present opportunities, wouldn't you agree? With the balance of power shifted so dramatically, there's much we could accomplish together. Always happy to work with the Union wherever I can, Nolan replied, his tone making it clear the conversation was nearing its end. Revok's expression sobered slightly. Let's chat soon, Mercer. And remember, in times like these, it's good to know who your friends truly are. As the transmission ended, Nolan's face grew grim. Looks like we've got a new problem to deal with, Ilara. Indeed. It seems Gul Revok sees the Xalaxians' defeat as an opportunity to expand Cardassian influence. Nolan stood, moving toward the viewport. That was the hope. To level the playing field as Starfleet continues its encroachment. Keep a close eye on Cardassian movements, Ilara. I'd expect Cardassian ships to start going after Xalaxian operations in short order. And what about our operations? Nolan, there are several Tabrid and Xalaxian operations we can move on right now, before the Cardassians have a chance. Let the games begin, Ilara. Nolan's fingers hammered at the Havoc's control panel, his eyes darting between multiple tactical displays. Ilara, status on the Tabrid dilithium processing facility in the Myriad system. Ilara's hologram flickered to life beside him, her expression focused. We've secured it, Nolan. Minimal resistance. The facility manager practically begged for a job once he realized who we were. A grim smile played at the corners of Nolan's mouth. Good. Get our people in there and start ramping up production. What's next? The Xalaxian shipyards in the Velos sector, Ilara replied. It's closer to Federation space, but the Cardassians are already making moves on their holdings in the Gamma Draconis cluster. Nolan nodded, his mind racing. Plot a course for Velos. We need to secure those shipyards before. The tactical display suddenly lit up with new contacts. Nolan's eyes narrowed as he studied the incoming data. Cardassian warships, Ilara confirmed. They're pushing into Xalaxian space faster than we anticipated. At this rate, they'll reach the Torvan mining complex before us. Nolan's jaw tightened. Not if I can help it. Blink us to Torvan now. The stars on the view screen elongated, then snapped back into focus as the Havoc rematerialized in orbit around a barren, mineral-rich world. A handful of Xalaxian ships hung in orbit, their crews clearly caught off guard by the Havoc's sudden appearance. "Open a channel," Nolan commanded. A nervous-looking Xalaxian appeared on screen. "This facility is under the protection of the Xalaxian Imperium. State your Imperium is done," Nolan cut him off. "And you've got about 10 minutes before a Cardassian battle group arrives to claim this rock. But I'm offering you a choice." The Xalaxian's eyes widened. "A choice?" Nolan leaned forward. "Work for me. Keep your jobs, keep this facility running, or wait for the Cardassians and see how generous they're feeling." For a moment, silence hung heavy on the bridge. Then the Xalaxian nodded. "We accept your offer, Mercer." As the channel closed, Ilara turned to Nolan. "That's the third facility we've secured in the last 6 hours. The Cardassians won't be pleased." Nolan shrugged. "They're welcome to what's left. We're focusing on quality over quantity." His eyes flickered to another tactical display. "What's the status on the Tabrid research outpost in the Lyra sector?" "Our teams are en route," Ilara reported. "But we're detecting increased Cardassian activity in neighboring systems. It might be close." Nolan's expression hardened. "Then we'd better move fast. Set course for Lyra, maximum warp. We're not losing that outpost." As the Havoc streaked through space, Nolan couldn't shake the feeling that this frantic land grab was just the beginning. The real challenge would be holding on to these new acquisitions in the face of Cardassian ambition and Federation expansion. "Ilara," he said softly, "start compiling a list of potential defensive upgrades for our new holdings. I have a feeling we're going to need them." "And what about our agreements with the Cardassians?" Nolan's lips curved into a humorless smile. "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. For now, they're honoring the agreements. I'm happy to do the same. Let's focus on securing what we can. The galaxy's changing, Ilara. We need to make sure we're ready for whatever comes next." The Havoc blinked out of existence, racing toward its next target in this high-stakes game of interstellar expansion. The bustling command center of Empok Nor hummed with activity. Holographic displays flickered with real-time data from dozens of operations across multiple sectors. Nolan stood at the center of it all, his eyes darting between readouts as he issued a steady stream of orders. "Increase production at the Velos shipyards by 15%, he commanded. "The Cardassians are demanding more assault craft, and I want to exceed their quotas." Ilara's hologram materialized beside him, her expression a mix of pride and concern. "Nolan, our operations have expanded by 300% in the last 6 months. We're operating at 98% capacity across all facilities." Nolan nodded, a grim smile playing at his lips. "And we're still barely keeping up with demand. The Cardassians' appetite for expansion seems limitless." A priority alert flashed on the main screen. "Incoming transmission from Gul Ravok," Ilara announced. "Put him through," Nolan said, straightening his posture. Ravok's scaled visage filled the screen, his eyes glittering with barely concealed ambition. "Mercer, I trust you've received our latest requisition?" "Just this morning," Nolan replied smoothly. "You'll be pleased to know we're already increasing production to meet your needs." Ravok's lips curled into what passed for a Cardassian smile. "Excellent. Your efficiency continues to impress. However, there is another matter we need to discuss. Our intelligence suggests increased Federation activity along our new borders. We may require additional security measures." Nolan's mind raced, calculating the implications. "I assume you're interested in our latest line of defense satellites?" "Indeed," Ravok nodded. "Your technology has proven most effective. We'll need at least 3 times our last order." As the conversation concluded and the screen went dark, Ilara turned to Nolan. "That order will strain our production capabilities to the limit, and I'm concerned about the number of weapons we're putting into Cardassian hands. Nolan moved to a viewport, gazing out at the shipyards that now surrounded Empok Nor. Shuttlecraft and larger vessels swarmed like insects, a testament to the empire he'd built. "We're walking a fine line, Ilara," he admitted, "but for now, the Cardassians need us as much as we need them. It's a buffer against Federation encroachment." He turned back to the command center, his expression hardening. "Still, it wouldn't hurt to have a contingency plan. Start quietly redirecting 5% of our weapons production to secure caches throughout our territory, and increase our recruitment efforts. We'll need more personnel to manage all this." "And what about the Federation? They're bound to take notice of our increased activity sooner or later." Nolan's lips curved into a wry smile. "Oh, I'm counting on it. In fact, I think it's time we reached out to some old acquaintances. See if you can arrange a discreet meeting with Captain Sachs. I have a feeling we might need some friends on the other side of the border before long." As Ilara set to work, Nolan returned his attention to the myriad displays. The sector map was a patchwork of Cardassian gray and his own territory, with the edge of Federation blue encroaching from one side. It was a precarious balance, but one that offered unprecedented opportunities and dangers. "The game's changed," Nolan murmured to himself. "Time to make sure we're still playing to win." Nolan was reviewing production reports when Ilara's voice interrupted his concentration. "Incoming transmission from Starfleet, Nolan. A Captain Sandra Wiltz." Nolan's eyebrows raised slightly. "Starfleet. That's new. Put her through." The view screen flickered to life, revealing a woman in her mid-40s with short auburn hair and piercing green eyes. Her Starfleet uniform was impeccable, 4 gold pips glinting on her collar. "Mr. Mercer," she began, her tone professional but not unfriendly, "I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Captain Sandra Wiltz, the new appointed commander of what we call Outer Alpha most of the time." Nolan leaned back in his chair, affecting a casual demeanor. "Captain Wiltz, to what do I owe the pleasure of Starfleet's attention?" Wiltz smiled, a practiced diplomatic expression. "Well, Mr. Mercer, given your significant presence in this region, I thought it prudent to establish a line of communication. We may not always see eye to eye, but it's in everyone's interest to maintain open dialogue." "How very Federation of you," Nolan replied, keeping his tone neutral despite his instinctive wariness. "Indeed," Wiltz continued, undeterred. "In fact, I was hoping you might be able to assist us with a matter. We're in need of some specialized equipment for our new outpost, just the other side of Beta Z. Specifically, we're looking for high-capacity shield generators and long-range sensor arrays. I understand you have quite the reputation for procuring hard-to-find items." Nolan's mind raced, considering the implications of this request. Supplying Starfleet could complicate his relationship with the Cardassians, but it might also provide valuable leverage. "That's quite a shopping list, Captain," he said carefully. "Delivering to Federation space could be problematic given current political tensions." Wiltz nodded understanding. "We're aware of the delicacy of the situation, Mr. Mercer. That's why we're approaching you. Your unique position makes you an ideal intermediary." Nolan allowed a small smile to play at the corners of his mouth. "I'll need to review the specifics of your request, Captain. And, of course, there's the matter of compensation to discuss." "Of course," Wiltz replied. "I'll have the details transmitted to you immediately. And, Mr. Mercer, I look forward to a productive relationship." As the transmission ended, Nolan turned to Ilara. "Well, that's an interesting development. What do you make of it? It seems Starfleet is trying to establish a foothold in the region without directly confronting the Cardassians. Using you as a buffer, perhaps." Nolan nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Or testing our loyalties. Either way, it's an opportunity we can't ignore. Let's see what we can do about fulfilling the good captain's request, discreetly, of course." He turned back to the view screen, contemplating the new player in this complex game of interstellar politics. The balance of power was shifting once again, and Nolan was determined to stay one step ahead. The freighter materialized just outside the Federation outpost's sensor range. Nolan watched from the Havoc's bridge as the cargo transported seamlessly aboard the station. "Delivery confirmed, Nolan," Ilara reported. "Captain Wiltz is hailing us." Wiltz appeared on screen, a satisfied smile on her face. "Mr. Mercer, I must say, your efficiency is impressive. The quality of these materials exceeds our expectations." Nolan nodded, maintaining a professional demeanor. "Glad to hear it, Captain. If there's nothing else." "Actually," Wiltz leaned forward slightly, "we've just received approval for further requisitions. Would you be open to discussing a more regular arrangement?" A few days later, Nolan found himself reviewing a growing list of orders from various Federation outposts in the sector. "Our production facilities are operating at full capacity now, Nolan. The Federation's demands are filling the gap left by our Cardassian contracts." Nolan allowed himself a small smile. "Perfect timing. Make sure we're rotating supplies from different facilities for each order. No need to make it obvious how extensive our operations are." Weeks passed, and the rhythm of deliveries to Federation outposts became a regular part of the Havoc's routine. Nolan found himself in yet another call with Captain Wiltz. "Your materials have made a significant difference in our expansion efforts, Mr. Mercer," Wiltz said, her tone warm but professional. "We're finally making real progress out here." Nolan leaned back in his chair, feeling more at ease with these interactions. "Happy to help, Captain. Though I have to ask, why not source these materials from core Federation worlds?" Wiltz sighed, a flicker of frustration crossing her face. "Bureaucracy, mostly. We're too far out to be a priority for regular supply runs. Your operation has quite literally been a lifesaver. We're walking a fine line here, balancing our Cardassian contracts with these Federation deliveries," Ilara said when the call had completed. Nolan nodded, his expression contemplative. "It's a risk, but it's also an opportunity. We're positioning ourselves as indispensable to both sides. That's leverage we might need someday." He stood, moving to the viewport to watch another freighter prepare for a delivery run. "Keep a close eye on the political situation, Ilara. If tensions rise between the Federation and Cardassia, we need to be ready to adjust our strategy at a moment's notice." Ilara's hologram nodded, her form shimmering slightly. "And what about Captain Wiltz? She seems to be developing a certain level of trust in our operations." A wry smile played at the corners of Nolan's mouth. "Let's nurture that trust, but not rely on it. In this game, today's ally could be tomorrow's adversary. For now, we'll keep the supplies flowing and watch how the pieces move on the board." As another order came through from a Federation outpost, Nolan felt a sense of satisfaction. His empire was growing, his influence expanding, but with it came new risks, new challenges. The delicate balance he was maintaining could tip at any moment, and he needed to be ready when it did. "All right, Ilara," he said, turning back to the bridge. "Let's see about fulfilling this latest order. The Federation's expansion waits for no one, and neither do we." Epilogue. The vastness of space seemed to hold its breath as the Tabrid convoy prepared to depart. The Havoc materialized at the edge of the gathering, its imposing form a stark contrast to the elegant Tabrid vessels. Nolan stood at the viewport, his expression unreadable as he watched the convoy begin to move. With a subtle nod to Ilara, he gave the command. One by one, ships blinked into existence from within the Havoc's cavernous hold. They spread out in both directions, forming an honor guard of sorts. Each vessel faced the passing Tabrid ships, their running lights glowing in a silent salute. The comm system chimed softly. "Incoming transmission from the Tabrid flagship," Ilara announced. Kelnar's face appeared on the screen, his features etched with weariness, but his eyes bright with a mix of emotions. "I don't know what to say, Mercer," he began, his voice thick. "The Tabrid colonists appreciate your sign of respect." Nolan allowed a genuine smile to touch his lips. "Well deserved," he replied warmly. "You'll be missed, Kelnar." We didn't always see eye to eye, but I won't forget my first friend in the Alpha Quadrant. A moment of understanding passed between them, years of shared history and complex interactions distilled into a look. "Oh, and I have something for your journey," Nolan added, his eyes twinkling with barely suppressed excitement. As if on cue, 3 massive ships blinked into formation around the convoy. 2 Xalaxian battle cruisers and 1 Breen destroyer. They took up protective positions, their presence both reassuring and impressive. Kelnar's eyes widened in disbelief. Nolan continued, "They're loaded with enough fuel and food to last your people the journey. You won't have to scrimp and scrape. Travel in comfort, old friend." For a moment, Kelnar seemed at a loss for words. When he finally spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. "Mercer, I thank you. This generosity is unexpected but deeply appreciated." Nolan nodded, his own throat tight with an emotion he couldn't quite name. "Safe travels, Kelnar. May you find the peace you're seeking in your ancestral home." As the transmission ended, Nolan turned back to the viewport. The Tabrid convoy, now flanked by their unexpected escort, began to pick up speed. The ships of Nolan's honor guard blinked away one by one, leaving only the Havoc to witness the Tabrid's departure. Ilara spoke up, her tone thoughtful. "That was a grand gesture, Nolan. Not your usual style. I'm surprised you departed with 3 of your favorite local warships." Nolan's lips curved in a wry smile. "Sometimes, Ilara, it pays to be unpredictable. Besides," he added, his eyebrows raised, "we don't want them coming back, and those 3 ships will make sure of that." As the last of the Tabrid ships disappeared into the distance, Nolan felt a chapter closing. The sector would be different without the Tabrid presence, but change was the only constant in this vast, unpredictable universe. "All right," he said, straightening his shoulders. "We've got work to do. Let's see what opportunities this new landscape has to offer." With a final glance at the now empty space where the Tabrid convoy had been, Nolan turned away from the viewport. The Havoc blinked out of existence, ready to face whatever challenges the shifting tides of galactic politics might bring. Epilogue. The darkness of Nolan's quarters was absolute, broken only by the faint glow of distant stars through the viewport. Nolan lay on his back, hands clasped behind his head, as Ilara's disembodied voice filled the room. "The Encanite are a rare species, Nolan," Ilara explained, her tone soft and contemplative. "Encante women, even more so. When they found you and assigned me to you, they shaped my mind after an Encante woman. I was literally made for you." Nolan remained silent for a moment, processing her words. "You know, Ilara," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper, "I think I've been going about this all wrong. I shouldn't be trying to make you more human. I should be working to be more like you." He sighed, a sound tinged with both admiration and frustration. "You're 1,000,000 times smarter than me, and I wish I could begin to understand the beautiful and rare woman you really are." A long silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken emotions. Nolan could almost feel Ilara's presence, as if she were lying beside him in the dark. At last, Ilara spoke, her voice warm with affection. "You're a beautiful man, Nolan Mercer." She paused for effect. "But you should know, I'm way more than 1,000,000 times smarter than you." Nolan burst out laughing, the tension in the room dissipating instantly. "Oh, is that so?" he challenged, sitting up. "Care to quantify that, Miss Know-it-all?" "Certainly," Ilara replied, a teasing lilt in her voice. "Shall we start with quantum mechanics, or move straight to trans-dimensional physics?" "Now, wait just a minute," Nolan protested, grinning in the darkness. "I'll have you know, I once beat a Vulcan at 3D chess." "Oh, Nolan," Ilara laughed, her voice full of mock pity. "That's adorable. Should I explain the difference between luck and intellect?" Their playful banter continued late into the night, filling the once quiet room with laughter and warmth. As they argued and joked, the vast distance between human and AI seemed to shrink, if only for a moment, in the face of their shared companionship.